Hi guys, what's up? Welcome to the channel. My name's Jared. Today I'm going to be doing some work on my V35 Skyline. I've gone and purchased some new seats, which you can see here. They're a copy of like the Recaro, Nismo Recaros you'd see in the Duke and the 370Z. So I went and got these off eBay from Crank Motorsports here down in Melbourne. So I was able to get both of the seats on sale for just under $800, which is pretty good. I also bought some mounting brackets. These are for a 350Z just because they don't have any for V35 Skylines. So I think these should be the closest, but they probably need some modification. And it came with some rails and the bar to adjust forwards and backwards. This is the knob to go on the side of the seat for adjustment. And then these pieces, they go on the back. As you can see, it's raw at the moment because you need to put the handle on and then install that piece. These seats do come with a lever so you can pull it and fold the seat down, which is super handy. So when you need to get people in the back, that's really cool. So this one here would be the passenger seat. And you can put the adjustment knob on either side, whatever you like. Just first off, I'm already noticing with this fabric in the middle, it is a dust and dirt magnet. Like these have just been sitting in my house and they're already starting to collect everything and anything on them. It's worth mentioning too that these are ADR approved, so it is safe to put it in your street car. I'm gonna start first on the passenger side because I believe the mounting brackets for that is the closest. So I'm going to start by getting that seat out and setting up the passenger seat with the adjustable knob and putting those panels on the back first. Just gone ahead and vacuumed everything up and thrown in this passenger seat bracket, and as you can see the bolt holes do line up, but the problem is the bracket is actually touching on the carpet. So there's like this foam hump underneath the carpet here, and on the front here we've got the rear seat cooler / heater for people in the back, and it's hitting on that plastic. So I'm just thinking whether I buy some washers or spacers to go under the seat bracket. It's probably not much, it's probably only 5mm or so, but I'll need bigger bolts. Or I go and remove this plastic piece and cut some of the foam out from underneath the carpet here to make it work. Alright guys, this took me just a little bit of time to work out my approach here because I showed in the last clip that the bracket wouldn't sit flat. So I initially went to Bunnings and bought these washers to try and space it up, but I realized I needed like 5 or 6 to get it to sit properly. So I've gone and modified the carpet and the sound deadening slightly. So now the bracket's sitting flat. But what I had to do was the top plastic piece here, I've just gone and chopped a section out of it to recess it down. The carpet steel here fits, and you're still able to use this piece underneath the bracket. But now that allows the bracket to sit in the front, and I just followed that front line there, so you can't even tell that anything's been modified. The back is a bit similar. I just laid it down, cut along this edge, and then pulled the carpet back up. You want to be careful because there is a wire in the bottom there that runs to the center console. Underneath there you have this foam that looks like this. That's what's holding this whole section up. So I've just taken a cut the same width of the bracket out of there, and then I just pulled the carpet back and tucked the bracket underneath there, and it just hides it up. And then now the bracket sits on the floor on both sides. Modifying the bolt holes, the back one I'll just need to cut a little bit out there. It can almost fit, but just needs a little bit more. And the same with the front one here, just needs a little bit more in that front corner to get it to fit. Now we're moving on to the seat rail install. I've just got the seat tilted over like this so we can get access to the base. So we can see this is going to be the back seat and this is the front seat end. And with your rails, these universal rails, you'll see one end there's 2 holes, the other end there's 1 hole, and also the mechanism is further to one side than the other. So this mechanism always goes towards the front of the seat, so that's where the dash is, so the front of the seat. And also these 2 holes here are for these 2 holes here, or in the channel here, and then the one at the front for the one here. With this particular seat there's this cross bracing here, so it's actually recessed down, and these washers have been provided here to space it up to the same height, because otherwise there's a gap. Your rails most likely came looking like this, and it's going to be very difficult to try and install the bolt when it's collapsed like this. So you need to get it looking like that, extended out. So to do that, on the side here you've got the mechanism lever. If you press that down, you can then slide this in and out, and when you let go it locks it in place. So you want to extend it out so those 2 bolt holes are visible and you can get the first 2 in. With these rails and the holes that have been supplied, I personally prefer to set the seats up so when you're sitting, when you pull it up, it adjusts the rails. These are actually set for the rails to be upside down, so you need to push it down to move the seat. I'm not a big fan of that, just in case like you accidentally put your foot on it and the seat slides back. But I think it's easier personally to pull up, like that's how most seats are made. So when I flip the rails around the other side to do it pull style, so if you were pulling it up like that, these bottom holes here don't line up with the opposite bolt holes. So I'm just going to drill a hole and put a nut in there, or I might just nutsert it for the seat. So now you've got your rails on and this slider in place. I just go ahead and push them all the way up to the top, so then we can get our seat bracket, and we just need to see what holes are going to line up. So that one lines up there, that one lines up, that one, and also that one there. So for my instance, they're going to be the ones that we're going to go with. Sometimes multiple sets of holes can line up and you just got to decide which one you're going to go with. With this piece here that goes between the 2 for the adjustment, If you find it's a little bit loose, you can just stretch it open. This piece here fits absolutely terribly. It's so far over this side. This top edge and this back bit's not too fine, or is not too bad, but none of these holes line up perfectly to put a bolt in. Alright, so I've just gone ahead and thrown on these side pieces, and just reminding you, this is the center console side, so I didn't drill this out. But I've gone ahead and thrown the bolts in. This back piece fit not very well, so I had to grind it, and this hole was so far over I had to re-drill it. This side fit a lot better, but this fiberglass is literally bulged up from how it's been molded. The shaft, you can actually push it through and then place the nut on the washer on, so then you can adjust the incline of the seat. And this side's going to be on the door side, so when you get in the car you can just pull it up and it folds down. Finally, we need to take the seat belt off the old seat, and also the electrical plug that's just clipped in there, which looks like this. I did try to use this bracket that was provided for the seat belt, but this was hitting the transmission tunnel, so instead I'm just going to attach this onto the bolt hole there and use a washer. Just using the old washer on the outside there. I ended up just using the one washer because I was worried there might not be enough thread engagement on the hinge there. So I've just done the one and bent it out a little bit, and then I just tucked in the wiring harness behind the gap in the seat rail there, so it can be plugged in underneath the seat. So with the airbag, to stop the light coming on, I've just bridged the two airbag wires and put a 2.2 ohm half a watt resistor in between the two wires. I kept the factory plug on just in case one day I want to go back to the factory seats and I can just cut the resistor back out. But what I've found is now I've got the dash light on for the airbag, because I did start it with the seat out. So I'll just show you how to reset the airbag light on the dash. So you want to put the car into accessory mode and wait for the airbag to flash, turn it off, back to accessory mode. Off. Accessory mode again a third time. Off and on for a fourth time. Off, and then start the car. And it should disappear like that. You also would have saw me wire in the half a watt resistor. Half a watt resistor did not end up working, even relearning the airbag. So I've gone and got a quarter watt resistor, which is what most people used on videos. So for your information, half a watt doesn't work, but quarter watt does work. If you're in Australia, that is the part number from J-Car. They look like this colour here. What the hell, that fits like perfect. I'm actually pretty surprised. I feel like this side fits better than the passenger. So that side's lined up. This one, the angle, like I said, The angle's a little bit funny, but I feel like if you just put the bolt in and tighten it up, it would be pretty good. But overall, the whole thing looks like it's a bit tilted down a little bit. So I wonder if I bend that one a little bit, whether I can get it to sit a bit more flat. So I modified this seat mount slightly just with a shifter, putting it over and bending it. And all of the holes line up, so I didn't have to open any of them like the other side. But now the problem is it's tilted down slightly. So I'm thinking I'm going to replace these bolts with the longer ones I bought for the other side and add a few washers underneath just to bring it up slightly. So to get this seat to sit level, I actually have to move it quite a bit. You can see how much of a gap there is. I don't know how comfortable I feel with having like 40-50 mil of washers stacked up under there. So I might need to make some sort of spacer to fit under there. So I went to Bunnings and I bought 2 of these couplers, these 5/8 UNC couplers. They're threaded through, but they're quite thick in wall body. And as you can see here, I've just got one underneath there spacing it out with an M10 by 1.25 70mm long bolts. And I got the factory 2 bolts in that side. And you can see we're in the middle of the bubble. As you just saw as well, I've just extended this front piece now that it's spaced up. The bolt hole is a little bit off, as you can see. I'll need to move it forward, probably sort of where that weld might be. But if I place the same height one underneath the front here, starting to go a little bit too far the other way, I might just trim a little bit off the end of this and then we'll mark and drill the new hole for the front. Front mounting hole is modified, it's cut, and the bolts are in. 2, 3, 4, and the spirit level is level. So next I'm going to go ahead and throw some paint on those and also the standoffs as well, so they match in. And then I'll work on bolting the seat to the rail. Hey guys, welcome back. It's the next weekend. In the last clip you saw me install the seat with those metal spacers, the ones I got from Bunnings. After installing it, the seat was very centered, but it was way too high, higher than the original seat, which was not what I was trying to achieve. I wanted a seat that was going to be lower. So then I spent Sunday trying to modify the bracket and the rails and everything to make it fit. Didn't get done, and it's the next Saturday now, and I've completely cut off all the tabs and re-welded them. As you can see here, the seat bracket's raw. I've just finished welding it up into the new position. So the main difference is the original bracket actually sits on top of here and on top of that, and it bridges down like this. And to try and get it as low as possible, I brought the seat bracket back and dropped it down underneath this step here, and also on this side of that step as well. So I've probably got it an inch lower than what it was, but I had to move the bracket from the side to the back here, and also that one's all the way across. These ones are similar-ish. I just moved them across a little bit. That's all I had to do. It's actually a lot more level than it was originally, and I'm just going to throw a couple of washers underneath to get it to fit. But my main issue after I modified this was that I couldn't get the seat far enough across, so I've had to open up these holes. They look like that before, and I've just opened them up because the bolt was sitting in the middle to move it all the way to the end of the adjustment there. And I've done it on all of them like that. I've also had to add a few washers just on the back so that back bracket doesn't hit on the side here, which you can see. to get in and out the car, there's a little tab here to lean the seat forward, and then you can push it back into place. With how the brackets I modified on this side, you can actually move the seat quite far forward and back, so it's no issue at all for space. That's all the way forward, and that's all the way back. You see there's definitely not going to be anyone sitting in the back seat. That's my seat all the way back, but you can see there's quite a bit of height difference between the driver and passenger seat. Even with dropping that bracket down, it's still not that low. I guess G35s in America, where this side's their driver's side, the seat's going to be much lower. Unfortunately for us right-hand drive cars, we have to deal with that transmission tunnel hump. With the knob here, I had to add some spaces behind it just because it was still loose. Even there's a piece of tube on there, it's not long enough. And these back pieces, I had to modify the holes quite a bit to get them to fit. This is passenger perspective height for me being 6'4", so it's pretty good. This isn't seat all the way back. That's seat all the way back, and I'm 6'4" and my legs are completely straight. So I think that this seat goes further back than the stock seat. And this is all the way forward, which is, I guess, pretty standard if someone was sitting behind you. This side, you can see on the edges of the seat, it's not quite finished perfectly with the paint, so there's a white edge. I am going to go back and fix it up later. And here you can see how far over we've slid this seat on the brackets. I did add a different bolt down there that is longer, because I added a few washers underneath that just to space the back of that seat over a little bit, just because this was my main problem fitting the seat. The corner here was touching on the door, and then also here, so tilting that side up a little bit towards the center helped out a lot. Also done the same for that front bolt. These ones are just the standard bolts down there, and you can see the gap here. There's not that much more room to come over. So this is me driver perspective. It is a little bit lower than before. One good thing is I've got back a little bit of leg space here. Before, when I was driving, my hand used to hit on my legs. So from my perspective, being 6'4", this is how much space I've got between my head and the ceiling, which is pretty adequate. It's pretty good. It's a little bit more than there was before. And the space in the middle there. And as you can see here, I can't even fit my hand between there and the door. And down here, I can't even fit my pinky. The fitment is very, very tight there. The main disadvantage with moving the bracket back and down is that when you move the seat forward, it hits on this bracket that I've made here, because normally it's coming on top of this up on a ramp. So if you're really short, this modification might not work for you, but for me, I'm driving pretty much with this seat all the way back at the moment, and that's what that looks like all the way back. One thing to note is that it's going to be very difficult to adjust this knob with the door shut. I found I have to open the door slightly, then I can turn this knob to adjust the angle. Thankfully, I don't really tilt this seat forwards that often because I never have passengers behind me. It's mostly the passenger seat, so I'll probably just leave it in that spot. So this is as far forward as the seat will go before hitting there, which is not that bad actually. I think if you were 5'10", you would still be able to easily reach those pedals. One sort of minor disappointing part about this seat is this edge was supposed to come stuck up underneath like that, and I keep sticking it up underneath there, but it keeps unsticking itself. And the same for the front here. You can see that seat cushion lifts up pretty easily. Alright guys, that wraps up another video. Really happy with how the seats look. They're definitely not as comfortable as the factory seats, but that's not what I was looking for so much with these seats. I wanted something that was going to hold me a bit better and was going to be a bit lower. Did really need to have to work for that second one to make it much lower to completely remake that seat bracket. I was expecting to have to modify it a bit because it was a 350Z seat rail bracket, but I didn't think I'd have to remake all four completely. The seats aren't the best of the best construction. They are ADR approved, which means they are safe for an impact, but they do feel better than the factory seat with the amount of times I've had to tighten the bolts and re-weld the frame on that. So I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe I've inspired you to do it yourself. If you like this video, please like the video, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends. It helped me out a heap. And thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.